It's 6 p.m. on a Friday here in Korea. Welcome to our newscast. I'm Daniel Che. Let us begin with the headlines. President Park Geun-hye becomes the first Korean leader to deliver a public statement at the African Union headquarters in Addis Ababa. She expresses hope for closer ties through greater cooperation and thanks African countries for supporting Seoul's measures against Pyongyang's provocations. Leaders at the G7 summit released a joint statement condemning North Korea in the strongest terms. The group even called on the international community to join efforts to punish Pyongyang by enforcing UN resolutions. According to a new KDI report, Korean households' average propensity to consume has hit a Q1 record low, and there's little sign of a rebound judging by factors like corporate restructuring and household debt. President Park Geun-hye has just finished speaking at the African Union in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. She is the first Korean president to do so, and she expressed hope for greater cooperation between Korea and the African continent.
아프리카가 아젠다 2063을 이루기 위해 긴 항해에 성공하려면 꼭 필요한 것이 신뢰할 수 있는 동반자라고 생각합니다. 대한민국도 아프리카를 포함한 국제사회의 이해와 협력이 있었기에 오늘의 성취를 이루어낼 수가 있었습니다.
She went on to add that Korea was only able to come out of poverty and achieve economic success through the help of other countries, and she expressed a hope that Korea will be able to do the same for Africa. She also thanked the African countries for their cooperation in condemning North Korea's nuclear program, and also announced a new program called Korea Aid, which will distribute food, medical care, and cultural content through the year 2017. President Park will meet key officials while at the headquarters of the African Union in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. She is there to understand the Union's past so Korea can help it achieve its political and economic goals. Kim Jong-soo sheds light on the history of the AU and its promising future ahead.
The African Union is the largest coalition in the world in terms of size and population, with 54 member states. Morocco is the only African country excluded from membership. The Union was established in May 2001 and launched in July 2002 in South Africa. It recognizes 4 official languages, and there are estimated to be over 1,000 African dialects. It has a combined population of more than 1 billion people and a combined GDP of over $2 trillion. The latest member to join the AU was South Sudan in 2011. Africa went through a rapid period of decolonization beginning from 1951. The precursor to the AU, the Organization of African Unity, was founded in 1963. It was launched in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, with 32 signatory governments. The OAU's main purpose was to facilitate coordination with other members to achieve a better life for the African people. Another goal involved eradicating all remaining forms of colonial oppression. The OAU was disbanded on July 2002 by its final chairperson, South Africa President Thabo Mbeki, and replaced by the African Union the same year. Conceived by then Libyan leader Muammar Gaddafi as a United States of Africa, the structure of the African Union is loosely modeled after the European Union. Although the members are united under one banner, the Union still has to improve in many ways economically. The AU generates 70% of the strategic minerals business and is an important player in international trade, but 42 currencies in circulation complicate transactions. The AU's future objectives include the creation of a singular customs union, a central bank, and a common currency. The Union is now planning to establish a functioning economic and monetary union by 2023. Kim Jong-soo, Arirang News.
Over in Japan, leaders at the G7 summit have condemned North Korea over its 4th nuclear test and long-range missile launch early this year. South Korea's foreign ministry says it welcomes the declaration. Oh Jung-hee tells us more.
South Korea has welcomed the G7 leaders' statement condemning North Korea. It also urged the regime to take steps toward denuclearization and cooperate with the international community. The South Korean Foreign Ministry said Friday the statement is just the latest warning from the international community to North Korea. Last month, at a foreign ministerial meeting led by Russia and China, 26 member states adopted a joint resolution calling on the North to abandon its nuclear program. Also, South Korean President Park Geun-hye's visits to Iran, Indonesia, Mongolia, and Ethiopia this year have ramped up the international pressure on North Korea to denuclearize. The G7 statement released earlier in the day sends yet another clear warning to North Korea. The statement condemns North Korea in the strongest terms over its fourth nuclear test in January and subsequent ballistic missile launches this year. It also demands that North Korea immediately and fully abide by all relevant UN Security Council resolutions and the joint statement of the 2005 six-party talks. The world leaders urged Pyongyang to not conduct any more nuclear tests or missile launches and to stop all provocative acts that pose a grave threat to regional peace and security. They called for greater cooperation among members of the international community in fully implementing and enforcing the existing UN sanctions on the North. The G7 also called on the regime to address the international community's concerns about its human rights abuses and Japanese abductees in North Korea. Oh Jung-hee, Arirang News.
U.S. President Barack Obama is in Hiroshima, becoming the first sitting U.S. president to visit since the 1945 atomic bombing of the city. In his remarks, Obama commemorated the victims of the bombing and called for a world without nuclear weapons. As expected, he did not offer an apology for the bombing. He also visited the Hiroshima Peace Memorial Museum. An estimated 140,000 people were killed in the bombing, including 20,000 Koreans. Two North Korean vessels crossed the northern limit line near Yeonpyeong-do Island in the West Sea at around 7:30 a.m. Korea time. Seoul's defense ministry says the patrol boat and fishing boat retreated northward from the maritime border after the South Korean Navy fired several warning shots. The South's military has been put on alert given the heightened tension on the peninsula. Officials say surveillance along the NLL has been beefed up and the military is keeping a keen eye for any unusual activities north of the border. The South Korean government has decided to pull the plug on a controversial revision to the National Assembly Act that allows more frequent parliamentary hearings. The logic behind this choice, the act violates the constitutional principle of separation of powers by giving the parliament excessive control over the executive. Park Ji-won gives us the updates.
President Park Geun-hye, who is currently in Ethiopia on a state visit, has vetoed a controversial parliamentary hearing act through an electronic approval system on Friday. The endorsement came about 3 hours after a temporary cabinet meeting presided over by Prime Minister Hwang Kyo-won decided to veto the act. The cabinet voiced concerns the act is highly likely in breach of Korea's constitution as it allows the National Assembly excessive control of the executive. Following the cabinet meeting, the Minister of Government Legislation explained the rationale behind the decision, reiterating that more frequent hearings would end up paralyzing state affairs.
The revision gives Parliament new controls over the executive and the judiciary without having basis in the Constitution. The revision does not comply with the principles of the separation of power and checks and balances as laid out in the Constitution.
This is President Park Geun-hye's second exercise of her presidential veto right on bills that passed the legislative bar at Parliament. The first time was in June of last year to stop another revision on the National Assembly Act that aimed to give lawmakers the right to request changes to executive orders. Friday's veto marks the 66th presidential veto right exercised in Korea. Park Ji-won, Arirang News.
The veto has put the country's political parties at odds again with just 2 days before the current National Assembly ends its term on Sunday. Shin Se-min zooms in on the reignited hostile ambience at the parliament.
There is no easy ending. The controversial revision of the National Assembly Act has put the political parties at odds just before the 20th National Assembly starts work next week. After the cabinet decided Friday to veto the revision and send it back to the parliament for reconsideration, the ruling Hyundai Party affirmed the decision, saying the action is within the president's authority.
The bill should automatically be scrapped, and it shouldn't be brought up again for discussion in the 20th National Assembly.
The opposition disagrees and says it'll bring up the bill again in the next National Assembly, which starts on Monday.
I would like to point out that the government and the ruling party's handling of the matter is immature. The public will be angry and say the ruling party has yet to come to its senses after its devastating loss in last month's election.
If this bill is scrapped, we'll cooperate and do everything in our power to resubmit it.
Considering that the 19th National Assembly's 4-year term ends on Sunday, the future of the bill is unclear. The National Assembly Secretariat says the question of whether the bill is scrapped or not has not yet been decided, but that the matter should go under a thorough legal examination. Shin Se-min, Arirang News.
Korean households remain reluctant to spend as income gains slow and people's post-retirement years get longer. The index gauging how much people spend in relation to their earnings continue to hit a low. HWANG Ji-hye reads between the numbers provided by the KDI.
82 years and another 6 months. That's the average expected lifespan of Koreans. And as income growth remains sluggish while life after retirement gets longer, Korean households are leaning towards saving instead of spending.
Spending conditions will improve on the back of low interest rates and oil prices, but structural issues like an increased life expectancy will limit the rise, resulting in private consumption posting growth in the low 2% range this year, lower than the economy's overall growth rate.
It's no surprise then that Korean households' average propensity to consume in the first quarter hit a record low for that period since related data was first run in 2003. Statistics Korea says the index maintained an overall downward trend, coming in at 72.1% in the first 3 months of this year, down 0.3 percentage points from a year earlier. This means people spent around $72 out of a disposable income set at 100. All this when the average monthly income of households in the first quarter stood at roughly $3,800, actually marking a drop of 0.2% from the previous year when adjusted for inflation. And with the current corporate restructuring drive coupled with the ongoing household debt problem, experts say a further dent in spending is a likely scenario down the road. HWANG Ji-hye, Arirang News.
Now, something to make you go wow and smile. Thinking outside the box is crucial for survival in the Korean market. LG Electronics is doing a good job at that, grabbing the public's attention with an unconventional marketing strategy.
We came up with a lot of ideas to effectively show the suction power of our product, so we chose the most innovative and shocking idea.
And that's exactly what the company's product named Cord Zero achieved. The cordless vacuum cleaner was used by American extreme climbing champ Sierra Blair Coyle to successfully scale a 33-story skyscraper over 140 meters tall. The feat was done with nothing but 2 vacuum cleaners in her hands. The promotional video available online reached over 6.5 million views in less than 4 days of its release. Hyundai Motor was the best-selling brand in Australia in April. According to the Federal Chamber of Automotive Industries in Australia, Korea's largest automaker sold over 6,300 vehicles there last month, surpassing Toyota sales of just over 6,000. This is the first time Hyundai has taken the top spot in Australia since entering the market 30 years ago. Credit compact cars, namely the i30 and the Accent, for this accomplishment as they were the best-selling models. The automaker sold over 4,100 i30s and 1,500 Accents in April, up over 80% and 178% from the year before. Fine dust has been accumulating over the Korean peninsula since yesterday, mostly due to heavy smog flowing in from China. Hwang Ho-jun delves deeper into the roots of the thick layer of haze that's making it difficult for Koreans to breathe.
Instead of clear blue skies, Seoul woke up to a thick layer of smog smothering the city skyline. The haze is mostly due to the heavy smog flowing in from China, raising the fine dust alert level to bad. According to the Korea Environment Corporation, the concentration of fine particulate matter, or PM2.5, was at 101 micrograms per cubic meter, more than double the annual average recorded by the Environment Ministry. A band of stagnant air above the Korean peninsula is trapping the influx of pollutants from China, which combine with ultrafine particles from Korea, affecting air quality. Fine dust, which can come from fossil fuel combustion and industrial processes, can have harmful effects on the human body, resulting in respiratory, cardiovascular, and ophthalmic diseases. The fine dust is expected to fade beginning Saturday afternoon. Until then, the Environment Ministry advises people to refrain from doing outdoor activities or to wear a mask. Hwang Ho-jun, Arirang News.
We've come to the end of this hour's newscast. As always, thank you for watching.